So, Christoph, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Raj. Thank you for the invitation for my motivation help course.
No problem. So this is a unit that I'm doing on the H&D course, Applied Sports Psychology. So we're going to look at motivation in sport and how we can kind of improve that. I just have to tell you that I'm not an accredited member of the British Psychological Society, so I can't actually carry out these interventions with you. It's just ideas that I'm giving you that maybe you can use moving forward with other psychologists or in your daily routines for your table tennis career.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're looking at goal setting to improve motivation. So goal setting is actually a useful tool that can improve motivation levels and in turn can make vast improvements in your sporting performance. I don't know how much experience you have with goal setting. Do you have any
I have
at all?
a tiny bit from my BTEC and yeah, so
Okay,
use
so
it there in psychology.
okay, so you have some experience of that.
Yeah.
So within this presentation, I'm going to try and discuss multiple ways that you can use goal setting techniques as a tool to improve your performance. We're going to look at in-depth detail of each facet of goal setting and the reasons why it's actually effective. There's lots of research out there saying that it's effective as a motivational tool. So the value of goal setting, firstly, would be that it offers a chance to see clear stepping stones to reach overall targets.
What if you don't achieve those targets? Like, for example, you set a target and then you don't achieve it. It won't be good for your motivation, will it?
No, then it's possible to actually change the targets to something different. So you can change it to easier targets, then you can reach your harder long-term goals by using those smaller stepping stones and easier targets. And also discussions obviously with the coach with regards to that would possibly be a help. So the nature of goal setting enhances focus, in turn improving motivation to complete tasks. It gives a clear and defined route of tasks or skills to complete or master in order to reach the preferred end goals, which we'll talk about later. It can help you to sustain your effort levels in order to reach the desired performance levels that you've set for yourself. And also it mobilises motivation levels in proportion to the demands of the task.
So what do you mean by that?
So it will, if you set goals, your motivation levels your effort levels usually are increased, and your arousal levels, which in turn lead on to the motivation levels being increased, which should, in theory, improve performance in the long term and the short term.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. So there's different types of goals that you can set. So you have outcome goals. These goals are essentially long-term goals, and they represent the target of all your training combined.
What do you mean by like long-term?
So long-term, it depends on the athlete. Like an Olympic athlete might have a cyclical long-term goal, so over a 4-year period. You personally may do it, long-term goal would be maybe seasonal goals.
Okay.
So it could be 6 months, a year, or cyclical Olympic cycles, 4 years, depending on obviously the athlete's situation and what competitions they have. Outcome goals can have multiple variables, so other people's performances can affect your outcome goals. Selection policies of possibly GB squads or county squads, these type of things. So they're not fully under the control of the performer. Secondly, we have performance goals. These types of goals encourage the performer to master the skill rather than place too much emphasis on the outcome of completing a skill or winning. This allows for the development of skills which in turn will lead to a higher level of performance with the constraints of trying to win not affecting the skills being honed. Performance goals can also be used in a framework of goal setting to keep track of the achievement of the process goals. And performance goals allow the performer to set standards for themselves which can lead to enhanced motivation levels in order to reach the standards that have been set out.
So they are just like for skills?
Pretty much performance goals are to do with skills, basically, setting goals for your skills. So possibly for you, I know that you play table tennis, so maybe you would look to, in stages, improve your forehand over a period of time.
Okay.
Does that sound good to you?
I understand that now.
Okay. So last type of goal that we're going to look at is process goals. So the process goals are the steps needed to be taken in order to reach the achievement or longer term goals. For example, to improve your table tennis performance, your motivation levels need to be higher. This can be achieved through a designated PST program looking to enhance motivation levels.
What's the PST program?
PST is Psychological Skills Program. So you can look at different techniques to improve motivation as part of your PST program. That's not something I'll be able to do with you because I'm not accredited by the BPS. But in the future, if you speak to psychologists within your career in sport, then that's something they could look to do with you.
Okay.
So essentially, process goals are goals that correlate to things you must do in order to enhance performance in the long term. For an example, for you as a table tennis player, I must train my legs at least 3 times per week over a prolonged period in order to improve my footwork. So you've got the process there, and the outcome goal that you're looking to achieve is improve footwork. So you need to work on leg strength in the gym to improve that. Would that make some relevance towards you?
Yeah, that would do. So definitely.
Okay. So on to why we actually use goal setting. So there's 2 kind of experts that are very well recommended called Locke and Latham. They both came up with a theory that the achievement of predetermined goals can lead to more feelings of satisfaction or self-praise, which leads to enhanced motivation levels. So essentially, achieving goals would allow you to improve your motivation levels because you will have more self-worth, more satisfaction in what you're doing.
More confident as well?
More confidence, self-efficacy would be improved, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So by achieving the targets, everything kind of improves.
It improves your motivation, yeah, because like you said, your self-confidence may improve and your feeling of self-worth also. So there's some characteristics of effective goals that we can look at. The main characteristic is that effective goals should adhere to the SMART principles. I think you've probably done that before.
Yeah.
So that would be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic and timely. As you know from your previous experience. So if that's not the case, then motivation levels might not improve for the athlete, hence performance may be detrimentally affected.
So setting a too high target won't improve my motivation.
Exactly. So unrealistic goals, or maybe the time frame was not right, it was too short, so you had no opportunity to achieve the goal. This may detrimentally affect your motivation.
Okay.
So there's aspects we can look at with regards to effective goals: short, long term, difficulty level, group or individual goals, practice or competition goals. So firstly, with short-term goals, they can be seen as stepping stones to long-term goals, usually on a day-to-day basis or session-by-session basis. For example, a table tennis player lacking motivation may decide that to enhance motivation, the difficulty of exercise in the next session will be increased, so that focus and motivation levels increase in the hope that this will lead to enhanced performances. Weinberg, another expert in the field, sports psychology, mentioned that achieving short-term goals can lead to attaining sustained effort levels, thus more chance of reaching the long-term goals that have been agreed upon. Long-term goals, these are linked into the desired outcome of the training that is taking place, so it allows for clear, defined targets to be worked towards. This enhances the effort productivity of the athlete.
So can they link them together, short-term and long-term?
Short-term and long-term, yeah. I mean, short-term goals would be seen as the stepping stones. To reach your long-term goals, obviously you need to go through the process of completing the short-term goals, like we were talking about with the leg exercise for the improvement of your footwork.
Okay.
So it can be over the period of months or even years, depending on your kind of seasonal habits or your Olympic cycles, depending on what kind of athlete you are. And it's important for you, the athlete, to understand what comes after the long-term goals also. So nothing just stops, and so moving forward is kind of paramount to sustaining motivation levels. Even if your long-term goal has been complete, then it's possible then to renew and reinvigorate and create more long-term goals.
For example, you like best player in the world.
Yep.
So you won World Championships, Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. What long-term goal would?
Then, I mean, if I would say that those goals are obviously at the peak of that person's sports career, but then it's possible to go on and win those things again, you know, to gain even more kind of extrinsic kind of value from them, in that sense.
Okay.
So onto the difficulty levels of goals. So it's paramount to note that the goals set out should be of the required difficulty level in order to test the athlete's capabilities and facilitate improvements. Too easy to reach your goals and motivation levels will drop, and too difficult, if the goals are too difficult, then attention levels may drop, thus leading to a lack of motivation.
So you need to be the right level of difficulty that pushes you, but not too hard.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So, for example, in table tennis, if the training partner can't return the ball consistently, maybe it won't push you on and have your motivation levels to the right sort of space that you want. So that needs to be carefully catered towards.
But then if the training partner is too good and you can't return any balls off them, it will lead to a drop of motivation.
Drop of motivation again. Okay. Practice and competition goals, which I'm sure you've used in your career so far. Yeah. So it's important that in order to maintain your motivation at an optimum level, that you set out both practice and competition goals with equal importance and intensity to strive for each. Obtaining practice goals will essentially lead to the reaching of your competition goals that you set out. So focus and attention levels are said to be higher if practice goals are appropriate difficulty levels and relate to competition performances specifically. So if you can make your practice more like your competition scenarios, that's more likely to motivate you during your practice sessions.
Will it help you to perform better in competitions then as well?
It should do, because then also, as well as improving your motivation levels, it will get you used to that kind of environment and that situation, so you don't maybe have the effects of choking or freezing on the spot. If you're used to that scenario, this should improve your performance. So it is also important to know that at times low self-efficacy can affect motivation levels during competition. Thus, building self-efficacy through the reaching of practice goals and rewards being given for reaching practice goals will build your self-confidence and in turn build motivation levels when it is time for you to compete. So, why are goals effective in enhancing performance? So these are the reasons that the goals are effective, which is important for you to understand moving forward if you're going to set goals later on. So goals direct attention and action into the challenges ahead. So as you can see from the kind of equation we've got there, increased focus equals increased motivation equals enhanced performances, which essentially that's what you're looking to do.
So if you're more focused on the training session, you'll be more motivated and then it will increase your performances in competitions.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
If the goals are challenging or aligned with SMART goals, then this will mobilise energy to enhance effort levels and lead to more persistent effort levels over a longer period of time, in conjunction with the goals that have been discussed.
But for example, you have like a SMART goal, but you don't really have the motivation to train. What you do then? Kind of. Because for example, I've kind of got a goal. In the moment, I want to play good on the weekend, but I don't really have the motivation to train at the moment.
Then I think that you can actually look at your goal and say, actually, is that goal valid to you? Is that goal actually valid to yourself and your kind of career? Is it necessary for you to reach that goal for your career? You have to actually understand whether it's valid or not for you.
Okay.
So goals can also be used as part of the evaluation of performance process. This allows for the athlete to understand their achievements and downfalls, which can lead to higher motivation levels if achievements are positively reinforced throughout the goals evaluation process. This is a highly effective method as it builds understanding of the goals attainment and the opportunity to determine new goals to reach.
What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is, if you use the goals and you evaluate them as you move through, you can then adjust the goals as you move through to cater for your needs and your career path. And also, if you're given rewards or positive praise, positive reinforcement when you reach goals, you're more likely to then strive to reach the next goal.
Okay.
Okay, so also it's said that goals have a pervasive influence on latter behaviour and performances in sport.
So if you have goals, your behaviour is probably better, or what?
Your behaviour, yeah, is affected essentially.
So if you don't have really goals, you kind of don't really care, and then just like have that behaviour.
Exactly, may not your behaviour may not be then conducive to good performances.
Okay.
So there's a set of basic principles to use when you're setting goals. So you need to understand that you need to understand yourself essentially. So your key motivators. Are you intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated? So
What do you mean by intrinsic?
So intrinsic is kind of like, are you motivated by your own belief, your own self-worth and what you want to achieve for yourself, or are you motivated extrinsically by money or trophies and rewards? Or are you just intrinsically, as I say, is just your own being, your own want to improve at something or improve skills?
Can you be both?
You can be both. You can be both.
Okay.
It's said that a lot of top players actually are intrinsically motivated. A lot of top players, because they're kind of able to get in their own zone and their own motivation level and perform then, rather than extrinsic looking at trophies. But some may argue differently. So another principle to think about when you're setting goals is performance history. So your previous performances, your training environment, is it conducive to attaining your goals?
Back to the performance history. So, for example, 2 years ago, I had a really good season, but last season wasn't that good. So, what would be?
So,
because it's like I had a good season and a bad season, so I had like positive and a negative.
So I mean, if you're understanding that your performance history is up and down, then you have to set the goals accordingly, essentially. So where you are at that moment in time that you feel with your training and your preparation and everything like that, your motivation levels, then you can set the goals accordingly to that.
Okay.
Injury history also. You have to understand your practice competition schedules and also your monetary constraints, so whether or not you have money to go to this competition. There's 5 primary principles for goal setting. So specific goals will enhance focus and motivation. Attainable goals. The athlete should be committed to reaching the goals, so an agreement could be made. Relevant feedback about goal attainment also enhances the effect of goals on motivation, and goals are most effective when they're used for evaluation purposes also.
Okay.
Okay, so on to the stages of design for goal setting. So it's an important aspect of making a set of goals. Preparation planning allows for the cause and effects to be determined in achievable predetermined stages. Deadlines should be agreed upon in the planning stage. The deadlines can improve effectiveness of goals, enhance motivation to attain stated goals.
What, for example, you set the deadline and then you kind of get injured and can't reach the deadline. Do you like redo the deadline? Then
it would be best to rearrange the deadline around obviously what your physical capabilities are at the time. But obviously coming back from injury might be a slow process, so you have to make those goals realistic.
Yeah, because your goals kind of change. For example, when you were injured, so you had done your ACL or something. It's quite a long time, so you need to set goals for your injury for the rehab, and then do new goals. Okay.
Yep. So good preparation promotes professional outlook. Planning can enhance focus on required tasks and increase motivation. And also assessing the ability and needs of the performer and plan strategies for goal achievement. The next stage of design would be the education of the athlete. So the next stage is kind of the intervention, the design. So inform the athlete so that they can take responsibility for goals. Schedule meetings, educate the athlete on the most effective way to set goals. And also it's important that one goal at a time for inexperienced goal setters. I'd imagine you're quite an experienced goal setter, so you would have multiple goals at a time. But there's actually some theories out there, research that says that it's more kind of more worthy in doing just one goal at a time, so you can focus specifically on those goals.
Okay.
That's when we're talking about long-term goals, really.
Okay.
And the last stage of design would be implementation and evaluation. So this is carry out the steps that have been determined to reach the desired goals, evaluate the process throughout the process and at the end. The reason for evaluation is that so that future improvements can be made